From agency and compensation clarity to commission protection. In the previous sections, we focused on clearly defining agency and compensation at the beginning of the relationship. Now we take that one step further. It is not enough to have an agreement, you must have an enforceable agreement. In today's real estate environment, where compensation is structured through buyer-broker agreements and confirmed through the seller compensation addendum, the smallest mistake in execution can cost you your commission. The reality, the ending, still controls everything. You can do everything right in a transaction. You can find the property, negotiate the deal, manage inspections, and guide your client all the way to closing. But if your agreements are not properly executed and aligned, you may not get paid. Professional agents understand that success in real estate is not just getting to the finish line, it is getting paid at the finish line. The story, Buyer Betty, done the right way. Almost. Let's go back to Buyer Betty. You meet her, explain your value, and, just like we discussed, you have her sign a buyer-broker agreement. You feel confident. You start showing homes, writing offers, and working the deal. Everything is going smoothly. But there is one problem. You never signed the agreement yourself, and you never returned a fully executed copy to Betty. At closing, a dispute arises over compensation. You point to the agreement. The client pushes back. The issue becomes whether there was a fully enforceable agreement in place. The legal reality, it must be fully executed. A buyer-broker agreement is not complete just because the client signs it. The agent must also sign the agreement and return a fully executed copy to the client. This creates what is known as a binding, enforceable agreement. Without that final step, you risk having an agreement that is incomplete or challenged. This issue has been highlighted in Arizona case law, including situations similar to Young vs. Rose, where the question arose as to whether an agent had properly executed the agreement. The takeaway is simple. Do not leave execution to chance. Sign it, deliver it, confirm it. Life example, the thank you mistake. An agent receives a signed buyer-broker agreement from a client via email. The agent quickly replies, "Thank you," and moves forward with the transaction. Everything proceeds normally until compensation is disputed. The issue becomes whether the agent's response constituted a valid execution of the agreement. Now the agent is in a legal gray area. A simple signature could have prevented the entire problem. The second risk, when agreements don't match now, fast forward to the end of the transaction. You have a fully executed buyer-broker agreement that clearly outlines your compensation. However, when reviewing the file before close of escrow, you notice something critical. The seller compensation addendum does not match your buyer-broker agreement. Maybe the amount is different. Maybe the structure is different. Maybe something was never updated. This is where agents get into serious trouble. Why matching compensation is critical. In today's market, compensation is not assumed. It is negotiated and documented. That means the buyer-broker agreement and the seller compensation addendum must match in terms, be consistent in structure, be clearly disclosed to all parties. If they do not match, it creates confusion, disputes, and potential enforcement issues. The professional step before closing. Before every closing, a professional agent should pause and review. Is my buyer-broker agreement fully executed? Does the compensation match what is being paid in the transaction? Is everything clearly documented and disclosed? This final check is one of the most important steps in the entire transaction. The story, the commission that disappeared. An agent successfully closes a transaction and expects to be paid based on their buyer-broker agreement. However, the seller compensation addendum reflects a different amount, and there was no clear reconciliation or disclosure. A dispute arises. Payment is delayed. In some cases, payment is reduced or denied. The agent is left frustrated, knowing the work was done, but the documentation did not support the expectation. Speed versus precision. The final lesson. Real estate transactions move quickly, and it is easy to focus on getting the deal to the finish line. But the most successful agents understand that precision matters more than speed when it comes to compensation. Rushing through execution, skipping signatures, or failing to align agreements are the exact mistakes that lead to lost commissions. The professional mindset, plan all the way to the end. Professional agents think beyond the contract. They think about enforceability. They think about alignment. They think about documentation. They ask themselves, is my agreement fully signed and delivered? Does my compensation match across all documents? Is everything clearly disclosed before closing? Because they understand one simple truth. If it is not properly executed and aligned, it may not be enforceable. Bringing it all together. This section ties directly back to everything we have covered. You defined compensation at the beginning, you clarified agency from the start. Now you ensure that everything is properly executed and aligned at the end. Start strong, stay consistent, finish protected. That is how you ensure you never lose a commission over something that could have been prevented. Online discussion question: why must the agent sign and return the buyer-broker agreement? Answer: to create a fully executed and enforceable agreement that protects the agent's right to compensation. Question: what is the risk if the seller compensation addendum does not match the buyer-broker agreement? Answer: it can create confusion, disputes, and may result in reduced or lost commission. Question: what should an agent do before closing to protect their commission? Answer: review all agreements to ensure they are fully executed, aligned, and clearly disclosed.